Ugly faces fill the entire space of the painting, each figure distorted and full of aggression. Only two, Christ and Saint Veronica, both with their eyes closed, maintain a simple human dignity, standing in stark contrast to the other characters. They gaze inward, focused on what presents itself to their inner vision, ignoring the bacchanalia raging around them. The longer you look at this painting, the more unsettling it becomes. Before you is the famous painting attributed to Hieronymus Bosch, Christ Carrying the Cross. The work resembles a cinematic close-up. Bosch masterfully conveys the chaos along the way to Golgotha, intentionally exaggerating and caricaturing the figures. Nowhere else did Bosch grant the human face such grotesque deformity. Hieronymus Bosch was a master of depicting the darker side of human nature. His paintings mix horror, fantasy, and moral storytelling in unforgettable, often shocking ways. Alongside the Garden of Earthly Delights, the Ghent version of Christ Carrying the Cross was long considered one of Bosch's most recognisable works, seen as a creative manifesto of the artist. The hellish mosaic of tightly packed, degenerative faces was so shocking, both repulsive and mesmerising, that the painting was universally regarded as a great and innovative masterpiece. This painting was once considered, in a sense, Bosch's calling card, a work that could be attributed to no one else. The Spanish monk José de Sigüenza insightfully wrote about Bosch and his difference from other painters. The difference between the works of this man and those of other artists is that others try to depict people as they appear on the outside, while he had the courage to show them as they are inside. The painting's fame was so great that the conclusion reached by Dutch scholars in 2016 caused a real sensation. Experts concluded, this is not by Bosch himself. The Ghent Christ Carrying the Cross was indeed created during Bosch's era and likely emerged from his workshop, but it is not directly by his hand. Most likely, it is a later imitation. The style and techniques closely resemble Bosch's work, but there is no definitive proof that the brush belonged to him. This opinion is based on technical research and differences in the underdrawing and composition. However, a number of art historians dispute these conclusions, pointing to the impact of restorations and the variability of Bosch's artistic method. The attribution of the painting remains an open question. What is the painting about? The scene of Christ's journey to Golgotha, known as the Carrying of the Cross, is based on the Gospel accounts of the final hours of Jesus Christ. After his arrest and trial, he was sentenced to crucifixion, one of the most brutal forms of punishment in the ancient world. By custom, the condemned was made to carry his own cross to the place of execution outside the city walls. Exhausted from scourging and abuse, Christ fell under its weight, while a crowd followed the procession, some out of curiosity, others with mockery and hatred. This path became a symbol of extreme humiliation and human cruelty. In Christian tradition, the carrying of the cross is not just an episode of suffering, but also a representation of voluntary acceptance of sacrifice. This is why artists, including Bosch, repeatedly depicted this moment, showing Christ nearly lost amid the hostile and spiritually blind crowd. Bosch painted this theme in 3 works. The first is in the Museum of Fine Arts in Ghent, the second in the Museum of Art History in Vienna. In addition, a side panel from a now-lost triptych of the same title survives in the Royal Palace in Madrid. In the Vienna painting, the crucifixion route is depicted in a fairly traditional manner. The Saviour walks bent under the weight of the cross, with a Brabantine landscape in the distance, typical for Bosch. And the surrounding figures appear quite human, though some are his tormentors. The Madrid Christ Carrying the Cross is compositionally closer to the Vienna version. Christ, scourged by a cruel crowd, carries the cross, wearing wooden shackles on his feet and a crown of thorns. His gaze, directed at the viewer, is full of calm and noble humility. In the distance, the grieving figure of Mary is comforted by an angel, and the Brabantine landscape is visible, which many researchers interpret as a realistic view of Bosch's hometown, 's-Hertogenbosch. Another contemporary reference is Simon of Cyrene, the bearded figure in white helping to carry the cross, who Bosch may have painted as the person who commissioned this work. The later Ghent version, however, is radically different. First, the colour scheme changes. The bright, resonant colours are replaced by dark, cold shades of grey and brown, with a disturbing metallic gleam. The composition changes too. Instead of full-length figures, a kaleidoscope of faces occupies nearly the entire square panel. This creates a sense of claustrophobia, crush, and utter horror, while simultaneously producing a striking aesthetic effect. Broken noses, thick lips, missing teeth, protruding chins, and eyes burning with unhealthy excitement. The artist depicts not people, but the living embodiment of human vices and passions. Christ himself refuses to look at the revolting world around him, filled with grotesque, hideous people intent only on his death. He is shown with his eyes closed. Another normal human face, sharply standing out against the grotesque monsters, is that of Saint Veronica. Although this character does not appear in the Bible, and her name emerged from a translation error, Veronica and her legendary veil with the miraculously image became firmly embedded in Christian mythology. According to legend, this kind woman offered Christ, walking to Golgotha, a clean cloth to wipe his sweat, and miraculously, his face was imprinted on it as a testament to his divine nature. Who else can be identified? At first glance, all these hideous faces, exaggerating every vice while neutralizing any goodness, may seem to merge into an indistinguishable mass, which is why Christ and Veronica have their eyes closed. But some characters can actually be identified. The figure clinging to the cross is interpreted by some researchers as a Roman soldier, attempting to make Christ's burden heavier. Others believe he is Simon of Cyrene, helping Christ carry the cross. In addition, both thieves who were crucified alongside Christ are depicted. In the lower right corner is the unrepentant thief, who will continue to insult Christ on the cross, and now glares viciously at his tormentors. In the upper right corner is the repentant thief, who asked, "Remember me when you come into your kingdom." Tormented by guilt, he has rolled his eyes in helplessness, while above him, the high priest mocks him with a repulsive expression. The faces of agony depicted in the piece are meant to represent a mob that oppose the ideas of Christ, and this mob is imbued with the concept of sin. Jesus' face, along with his likeness in Saint Veronica's veil, is meant to show Jesus' emotions in his decision to die for the sins of the people. His expression is especially meant to contrast the faces of the mob because they embody the sins that Christ is giving his life for. The intention of the artist was to depict the inner reality of humanity and Jesus' solitude in his journey. This is meant to show that Christ is the only person that can forgive humanity for their sins and bring the beauty of humanity to the surface. Christ carrying the cross is a unique painting that is still capable of frightening even today. Everyone will find something of their own in it: fear, disgust, or a reason to reflect on human nature. Regardless of the debates over its authorship, it conveys the very mastery traditionally associated with Bosch's name. But what do you think? Was this painting created by Bosch himself or by one of his followers? Thank you for watching this video until the end. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss new stories like this.